Thanks for downloading this episode from Teachers Talk Radio. You can find the full schedule and listen back to all our shows at ttradio.org. Enjoy the podcast.
Hello, good evening, and welcome back to Teachers Talk Radio, Tuesday Twilight Show, every second Tuesday from 6 p.m. live with me, Timea, and where we always concentrate on one hot topic in higher education. And today's topic is something that comes back because it's a very, very important trend and an important area to concentrate on. And this is about how we bring the industry into the classroom, how we make sure that students can gain those important soft skills and hard skills, that kind of experience they will need to demonstrate to hiring managers and recruiters and put on their CV after they have the diploma, and how they start their journey with experience in their pockets. How do we make sure that we have that? I will introduce my two fantastic guests who I brought to you today, and feel free to chip in, feel free to comment, feel free to send questions or to share experience. We're all about sharing good practice, and we come together with all my fantastic guests and all the listeners to share the know-how and what we've already done. So I'm so excited to invite them very soon. First of all, I would like to show to you Halasz Learning, who we run these shows in partnership with. They are publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. If you want to level up your professional development today, please visit www.halashlearning.com to explore the full range of titles. And now I would like to introduce and come to the stage Eva Halasz. Hello, Eva. Very nice to have you.
Hello, Timea. Thank you for having me.
No, that's absolutely my pleasure. So Eva is the strategy director at AGC Agency and has a huge background on the agency and marketing strategy space. At the same time, she's also a visiting lecturer at the University of Cambridge and UCL, so both the academy industry. And my other fantastic guest, Richard Ahenkorah. Hello, Richard. Nice to have you.
Hello, Timea. Hi.
And Richard is a subject lead and teaches business management at ICCA, and he has a background in banking as a leader and strategy, growth and strategy director, and also the author of 2 books on leadership. Right? Thank you to the both of you for being here, and thank you everybody who is watching us. Please feel free to comment and ask questions. And my first question from both of you: you both started in industry and in a way are still in industry. What made you to come back to academia after finishing your own studies at some point, obviously? Why did you decide to become a lecturer once you also had a very successful and still have a very successful industry portfolio? I don't know if I can start with Eva. And of course, feel free to talk to each other. We don't know.
Sure. It happened. In my case, it was an accident. When I was working in management consulting in the city with Booz Allen and Hamilton, one of my wonderful colleagues was doing a PhD. And at that time, back then in consulting, especially with Booz Allen, everybody had to do some research. And I was researching brands, private label versus branded goods and the price premium. So I was doing brands. And this very sweet colleague of mine asked me, because his supervisor asked him whether there was somebody who is proficient with brands, knows about brands, to go and do a guest lecture at Imperial. And I was very nervous when they asked me, because I haven't done anything like that before. And I gave a lecture on brand management, actually brand management and brand valuation, if I remember well. And it went really well. So they invited me back the next year, which went so well that they basically gave me a contract to run a brand management course with a wonderful professor who is to this day my mentor and one of my PhD supervisors right now from the University of Cambridge, called Professor Jaidit Prabhu. And we ran a course together, which became the highest ranked course. By students at
But what is, and this is amazing, Eva, what is interesting for me is like, what made you, what is it that you like in it, that you say that, okay, this is what drives me to do that?
Right now, or when I started?
Right now, or whenever.
Now, right now, I started loving it because I could see how wonderful it is to give this knowledge back to the students and to enable them to be able to become better professionals, so they have practical skills. Because I think my mission is to merge academia and practice successfully.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. And it very much resonates, which I also came back from from industry, and it's absolutely giving back the knowledge and then bridging the two, right? Richard, what is then your kind of drive?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me, Timea, and Eva. Hi. I think for me, it's just I like the way you started the show to say that we bring industry to the classroom, but it's a two-way street. We take classroom also to industry, because that was where for me my motivation started. My motivation started from where I was in industry. I had the opportunity to rise all the way to the C-suite as a director of strategy. That's one thing I found out, that in the workplace, many people feel that there's a disconnect between industry and then, if you like, academia. Meanwhile, I always believe that there should be a connection where you can link theory to practice. So when I went all the way to the top, I realized that industry has a lot to learn, especially people that I work with. And I had an opportunity to be doing part-time lecturing with the University of Gold Coast in Ghana. And I was doing some online, and then others were also being done physically, I mean face-to-face, anytime that I'm in town. So when I started doing that, I saw that merging industry to theory, or merging theory to practice, gave me a fine blend, if you like. I like myself now. I like how I feel anytime I teach, because I'm able to connect whatever is happening at the workplace to the classroom. And I can also take the classroom to the industry. And that is my motivation. And I get excited anytime I teach in the area that I've excelled so well in industry.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. And it very much comes across whenever I see you teaching. I really love that. And it's a very good point that it's a two-way street. And I already mentioned it in another show when we had employability, that I'm a bit upset to see this kind of divide, that whenever I talk to business and mention in many places, at a networking event, mention academia, that kind of like it turns everyone off, like, oh, this is not for us. We are in a business. And it's also true the other way around, that in academic circles, when you mention any kind of like a business networking event or a business conference, it's kind of like, okay, it's not for us. Well, it couldn't be more untrue, right? So it's so much about the two, how they collaborate. And we will also go back to, I really loved your point. I put this down, that I wanted to ask this also, what business can learn from academia. Okay, so that will come back. But before that, I really want to ask you, so today I would really like to concentrate on what happens in the classroom, okay, if we can, because we had some other sessions when we talked about outside, and I think that is becoming more like, okay, internships and guest lectures. But what is it that when we as lecturers are in the classroom, and this is not a question, let's just have some examples probably, and what you do, what you can bring as an example. Okay, I don't want to put you on the spot, so just have a little thought about it, and it can be back and forth, so you don't have to that. What is it that you do in the classroom that will also be useful for them, so they can actually practice the industry at the same time in the classroom as part of the curriculum? Right, I don't know who, Eva, if you would like to go ahead. And as I said,
I like to teach I like to teach in a way which is like agile sprints. So when I share a bit of theory with the students, I like to basically invite a discussion, and then lots of cases from real life, and we discuss the cases. Also, sometimes we can do like role plays around the cases, which is super, super useful. And what I also do, because when I teach, for example, how a marketing company briefs an agency, we learn the two types of briefs, the creative and the client briefs, and we have teams. We have client teams and creative teams, and we swap. So they have a product which they want to sell. So it's more like a simulation, but in a real life simulation without the expensive softwares. And they can really practice that.
That's really great, and that's important. That's an industry skill. And in terms of, can I just ask about case studies, which is mentioned? How do you select those case studies, and how do you make sure that they are diverse, they are up to date? Because sometimes I can see that there are case studies from Tesla and Google and Tesco's, and I can see that our students will not necessarily, and it's an entrepreneurship model, our students will not set up. They might work there, but like if it's an entrepreneurship. So you see how sometimes I feel like some of those cases, and it's not it's not what you do, Eva. So this is a question: how to make sure that we can keep them really up to date and diverse, and offer students a really good opportunity to see variety.
I myself, if I may ask just very shortly.
Yeah, please, and then I will move to Richard.
I spent 7 years in an incubator at the Central European University, and I mentored lots of startups. And I have written up case studies myself, which I use when I teach. I also use client examples if my clients let me use that. So I use that too, which is also great. And I'm also a judge on the Effie Awards, so I can, I'm going to write up a couple of case studies now from Effie winning companies, obviously with their permission, and co-write the case studies with them. Because the other thing is that students, all these like long Harvard case studies, like 15, 20 pages, they don't really like to read them.
Yeah, this is fantastic. And this is why it's good to have somebody from the industry. I just put down would like to go back to case studies, but now I would like to also hear from Richard. The original question was, to be fair, is what are the things that you use in the classroom as to have them practice the industry?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I personally look at is getting everybody involved. When I see classroom participation to another level and the interaction from colleagues, it gets me excited. So one of the things that I use is to put colleagues, or to put students in teams. I love to put them in teams so that they can come out to innovate, brainstorm, to come up with innovation and creativity. One of the things that I've learned basically is that when students finish school and they join industry, they struggle, especially if they are that type of student that they want to do things by themselves. But when they get to the workplace, they realize that, in the workplace, no person has achieved greatness unless a team. They always remember what we have done in the classroom. So normally I like to put students in teams, and beyond putting them in teams, I give them tasks within the teams, so that by the time they finish, everybody else would have played a role. For example, when I'm teaching Belbin's team roles, and I put them in teams and I give them roles, by the time they finish, you see who is the planter, the communicator, whoever is involved, you find each and every one being part of it. One other thing that I also use, basically, which I think, Timmy, I have learned a lot from you as well, is the active blended learning. Basically ensuring that you use all the practical bits of the learning lessons as ways of creating an environment to get everybody involved, from videos to just reading case studies, just like Eva has mentioned. And I also ensure that I learn from the students myself. There's one way I do to learn from them, because when I do that, I believe that learning and teaching will be going in place. I also believe that students learn very well when they learn amongst themselves. So I also encourage peer learning. So there are instances that, apart from grouping them, breaking them, these are the things that happen at the workplace. So you realize that when you're able to practice this in the classroom, when they get to the workplace and then they are put into project groups at the workplace, they know that they have already gone through a certain form of simulation, which becomes more relevant to wherever they are. So whatever I'm doing in the classroom, I still have their progression in mind. And that is how I do it, Timea.
Yes, and thank you very much, Richard. But let me ask this question. Do students know this? So you both mentioned that you put them in groups, and they can work in groups. How do you make sure that they understand that what we learn here is not just a classroom exercise, or it's not just for today, or it's not just because of for the assessment, which many times they think it is, but what we learn today here will also help me later on in a workplace. How both of you make sure that they know that, if you do? Because there are a lot of soft skills that when they present, when they give peer feedback, when they have those roles in a teamwork, these are all skills that will be good at a later stage. But do they know this?
Can I go?
Yeah. And then
Yes.
you can also.
I think I'm lucky to be teaching one module this semester, which is business ethics and sustainability. One of the things I saw was that the simulation was not just about role players, but it also came with titles, what happens in the boardroom. And then basically students were assigned positions, and the positions came with responsibilities, and the responsibilities came with accountabilities. So by doing that, they learned all the processes, and they got to know that, oh, if I do well in my role, it comes with reward or sanction. And so with this in mind, you find students doing not just research about their roles and the titles, but they're also learning about the consequences and the ramifications of the decisions that they make in the boardroom. So in as much as they are not there yet, they have something in mind, a picture of how the boardroom behaves. And I always let them also know that the behavior of the CEO, of the chairman, of the executives, of the ESCO has a direct repercussion on the behavior of the institution. And so by doing this, you give them that mental picture of where they are going. And so this is how sometimes I do it. And I was lucky to be teaching this module, which basically I think it has helped me and has helped the students to also understand the decisions they make in the boardroom in future. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So thank you very much, Eva. The same question, like, how do you make sure they understand that it's going to be helpful for them later on as well? Because they sometimes I see that they are so much focused on the assessment only, or only on that module.
Yes, I like to assess the group work as well, so they have to focus on the outcome. But if they assume the role of a product manager or brand manager and assume a role of an agency, similarly what just Richard talked about, very similarly, they will bear the responsibility that they really have to put the learnings into practice. And many times they told me that I didn't know that marketing was that complicated. I thought it's very superficial, because a lot of people, like engineers, finance people, they think that marketing is not a sort of deep scientific thing. So
Not
they
just them.
understand that
Everybody
you
thinks
really have
that
to
was
think
not in
hard and
marketing.
work hard. And the second thing I want to mention, that if I have a full module, when I have lots of classes with a group, I also encourage them, we pick a couple of soft skills to practice when they do this. For example, active listening, how important it is then, for example, if there are 3-4 people in the group, while somebody is talking, to really listen to this person and build on her ideas. Because in a group setting, a lot of people just want to convey their own ideas and not build on each other's ideas. And how to look at people, how to communicate with the body language, that you actively listen to the others. And that's a wonderful skill. And we pick skills like that as well, soft skills. So we practice it at the same time. Meanwhile, we are also learning the hard skills.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful, Eva. And I obviously agree with you that we work for the assessment and prepare them. But what I think, that we talk a lot about embedding employability into the curriculum, which is needed. But at the same time, we should also emphasize those things which are already there and soft skills. So when students sometimes, like, they don't want to be in another group only with their friends, or coming from the same country if it's an international group.
Yeah.
And when we ask them to actually put in other groups, and we can tell them that, look, this is to build those relationships that will help you later on. This is to learn to work with various types of people and various personalities. And really, I think that this is another skill that probably should really be introduced into academia, when the lecturer raises awareness of every action, that this is something that when you finish here is something that will help you. Because many times when they face these challenges during the sessions and they just don't want to do it. And later on, we hear when they get a job later on that, oh, that was one of the most useful session or one of the most useful thing you made me do. And at that time, I just hated it, right? So sometimes we have this feedback. So
this show is brought to you in partnership with Hachette Learning, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. Level up your professional development today and visit hachetlearning.com to explore the full range of titles.
Teachers, have you heard of Bet UK 2026? It's the world's biggest education and technology event, and it's completely free for educators. From keynote speakers and panel sessions to CPD accredited workshops and networking, Bet UK 2026 is where educators from across the globe come together to share ideas, spark inspiration, and find solutions that fuel our mission to drive better education globally. Get your free ticket today at betshow.com.
Hey teachers, it's Tom here from Teachers Talk Radio, just dropping in to tell you about Teachers Talk Connect 2026. We are back with our amazing big annual CPD and networking extravaganza in Manchester. It's on Saturday, the 14th of March, and tickets are completely free for teachers. Just head over to ttradio.org/Connect 2026 to grab your ticket today. We can't wait to see you there.
I think it's not just building in, right, Eva? I don't know if you had this experience, but it's also telling them each time that actually this is how it will help you later on. I usually tell them that you will get to a point where you will be rewarded not with marks, but with money. And we prepare you for that. And and this is the same. I think it's about attendance, that if you are the one who gets used to it, to be there on time and before time, and you become you are the one who people can count on, that it gives a very good impression. Then if you later on want reference from me, I will say whatever I experience. So kind of have this awareness that it's not just, years later that they have to act, right? I don't know what you think about it, how much it's already part of, how do you think it's already part of the teaching overall, to emphasize this?
Because I think a good teacher should sort of push students out of their comfort zone. And that this is also what you just illustrated really well, is just pushing them out of their comfort zone. And also thinking wise, oftentimes I feel that students, we have so many things now, from AI to social media, internet, so many resources that gives you instant answers. And oftentimes it can be also quite frustrating for students that I tell them, think more, go back, okay, that's fine, but you have to think more, but it's ready. No, I said, it is not ready, you have to think more, and it will get them very frustrated. But what I tell them is, this is the only way you can compete with AI and everything else, that you think.
That you reflect and think. Yeah,
exactly, and think more, deeper. When the same thing happened to me in management consulting. Sometimes I thought I was ready. They told me, you're not ready yet. You have to think more. You have to spend more time. This is Kahneman's thinking fast and slow. You have to encourage slow thinking, not just instant.
Absolutely. Very good point. Very good point. Yeah, absolutely. Richard, what about you?
Yeah, I think what you said is 100%. As Eva also said, normally what I try, or what I do, I don't even try, what I do with students is, from day one, I remind them of cultural intelligence. I remind them of self-awareness. They should know where they are. I also remind them of the way the world is becoming now. One of the drastic things that is happening to the world is technology and globalization. So you cannot always want to be in the place where you are familiar with the people you know.
Exactly.
The workplace can push you to a department where you are new, but you have to find a way to create new connections, bond, and then find a way to survive by creating a new team. So when they become aware of this, which I normally do with my students, especially from day one that I meet my first students, I set the ground rules. And as part of the ground rules, I tell them that I can be moving anybody from team A to team B. The important thing is that there should be.
Do they like it? Do they like
no,
it?
they don't. No, they don't.
Yeah,
they're not happy. But
at the workplace, it will happen, right?
It will happen. It will happen. The workplace, you'll be there the next day. You'll be transferred from Holborn branch to, let's say,
Yeah.
Manchester, and you
Yeah.
need to find a way to learn within the team. So I talk about cross-learning.
Right.
I also tell them about learning to live with new people. You have to be a global citizen so that globalization will make meaning to you, because whether you like it or not, globalization has come to stay, and it is one of the drivers, and it makes the workplace exciting. The things that they are scared of, I try to let them create some kind of excitement so that they'll be happy about it. And this
Oh,
is what I normally do with my students.
that's
Yes.
really great. Fantastic. It's really,
Yeah.
really important. I will ask
Right.
you about, you touched upon technology, Richard. That's very good, relevant point. So
Mm.
when we talk about industry practice, industry has some software or any kind of, we will go into AI. Let's start with software if we can, not AI, and then we can move to AI. If you have them be familiar with any of these, and how much you have to then always keep up to date, how much you have to teach them to actually keep themselves up to date later on. Okay, so that will be my next question. But before that, you can have a little thing, because I would like to just shout out about BET, which is the biggest week in education from the 21st to 23rd January in 2026. So it will be a very good start in Excel Exhibition Center in London. I was there in previous years. It's a huge, huge extravaganza with amazing sessions and with amazing immersive workshops, thought-provoking speakers, hundreds of hours of CPD content, cutting-edge technology. You can try a lot of things, and obviously you can also network with others from the industry and the amazing exhibitors and other educators. So it's completely free for educators, so you can get your free ticket today by visiting the website uk.betshow.com. And I'm coming back my two fantastic guests for today when we talk about industry practice in the classroom in higher education. And I have Eva Halasz with me and also Richard Ahenkorah. Thank you very much for being with us. And so far, we've just really touched upon a lot of exciting things already. And let's move a bit about the industry software. So whatever is like, obviously, both marketing and finance and leadership and management is like, obviously, any area you will need to use some software. How do you have students be familiar with this? Let's start with Eva then, if that's okay.
To be honest with you, I use the second theme will be more relevant because I use AI and I make students use the AI quite a bit. When it came to softwares in my field, I didn't really teach search engine optimization. That would be there are some really great simulations, social media and search engine optimization. I haven't taught those classes, but when it came to brand management, employer branding, brand valuation, I didn't find the appropriate softwares good enough. So I relied on my own simulations that I was doing in the class. So I didn't really use softwares.
Oh, so how do you mean on simulations? You build something or you?
It's just basically, let's say role play, but basically live briefings, agency versus client, marketing director versus marketing managers, and I gave them tasks. So I looked at a couple of softwares that the schools I was teaching with were using, and I didn't feel that they were sort of flexible enough and up to date enough. The up to dateness was a big issue for me, but maybe it's just my era.
Yeah, that's all right. Thank you. And we will move to AI. I just wanted to separate a little bit so that we also mentioned some others. I don't know, Richard,
Sure.
do you have something that you have helped them use on?
Yeah, I think at some point I was teaching the students on digital business. And then in doing that, there were areas where students must learn to have their own website. Now, in having your own website, it's not just for, I remember I always tell them, it's not just for academic purposes. You can use it and think entrepreneurial. So those who had some side hustle, like they say, and they have their own side businesses, took advantage of that. We use WordPress, and those who were having challenge with WordPress, I proposed Canva for them. With the WordPress, there are areas that you have to pay. So I told them that if there are paid areas, just avoid it and then go with the Canva. What did that allow them to do? They came out with some idea about what their company would want to be doing or what they want to do in future. Then they started designing. They had some caption. They came out with a call to action. and then they were
Oh.
able to put their contact, and they were interested. Some of them had already started business with it. And I'm also happy I can mention two students in my class. I think one is Raresh and the other one is Aminu, and they were already using it. Why? Because they looked at it from the point of interest. You know, when you want to be entrepreneurial, you pick your action from where you are interested in, and then you can drive that interest into business. And I always tell them that there's nothing like making your hobby a business. And if you're able to add it to the design that you do for your website, then something drives you in, you can push it. And they were using it. And WordPress, for example, for me, the only thing that happens to it that probably it become difficult is that students have to pay for some of the features that they want to have. But for Canva, it was a bit flexible for them to use, and some are excited already. So, in as much as we are doing it academically, had a direct connection outside the classroom, and it can take them into the industry. They become more entrepreneurial, and then they can make in or cash in that regard. So these are some of the things that personally.
Yeah, I love this, Richard. It's a tangible thing that they
Yeah.
can actually show
Yeah.
that, oh, I've done this. This is a
Wonderful.
reference that they can
Yes.
put on the CV. And in a previous show, we had here Mohammed and Bio, Mohammed also from SEC and Bio as a business coach, working together on a live brief where students developed websites for businesses as part of the assessment, which is fantastic. It's a tangible thing. They can really experience it. It's really, really good. I also, when I was teaching marketing, then I also was like Google Analytics, teaching Google Analytics, search engine optimization software,
Exactly.
all kinds of these. And the challenge really is that these change from semester to from term to term. So I needed to get updated on my tools because students have all kinds of questions about it, and then you really, really have to be on it.
Yeah.
And WordPress the same. And so I think it's also because I always told everybody that, look, whatever we learn here in 6 months will get updated, or
Exactly.
even sooner. So I also would like to teach them, and I think it's very important, that kind of curiosity and how you keep yourself updated. You just don't rely back on what was taught a year ago. How you have that kind of lifelong learning approach, and always, be a little bit ahead of the industry, right? It's so important, absolutely important.
I like that. I like that, Timea, because I always tell my team that the world has moved from the VUCA age now to the bunny stage, where things are brittle, things are anxious, the world is non-linear, and the world is actually incomprehensible. So everything that we are doing now, hitherto we said, oh, things were volatile, they were uncertain, they were complex, they were, ambiguous. Now it has moved from VUCA to bunny. So anything that we are doing now, anything that we are doing now is not stable. Nothing is stable over time. Nothing is stable over
I
time.
love this.
So I tell my students that even whatever I'm teaching you here right now, I can tell you that within 3 months or 6 months, the WordPress you are looking at, the Canva you are talking about, can be brittle, it can be anxious, and yes, it can be non-linear, it can be incomprehensible, so that they are prepared for the times ahead, so that they also don't want to see things to be stable over time, because that is not going to happen.
Yeah, that's a very good one. I didn't know that we have a bunny.
Yeah, we have a bunny,
and even
after
worse than
VUCA.
VUCA.
After VUCA. Yeah. So bunny had taken over VUCA now. They said things are very brittle, very brittle now.
And then what can we do in this VUCA bunny area? And both of you,
what can we do?
What can you do that so that they kind of have some stability from you?
Yes.
What is it that they can get from you?
Okay, so what we can do is that you need to build resilience, because things are brittle, so you need to build resilience, and then anxiety, you need to lower your anxiety, and then you need to embrace non-linearity. You need to embrace non-linearity, and then you need to act decisively with incomprehensibility. Because the whole idea is that if you think that you need to understand everything before you act, the world has changed. You don't have to understand everything before you act. Sometimes in leadership, intuition comes in. With the knowledge that you have, start with it. And then when you start small, you grow with it. So these are the things that you can do to control the bunny. But obviously, what is happening now is that we cannot ask students to say that, oh, this is what I've taught you, and I've taught you, so over time it's going to be like this. Because in about 3 months, to 6 months, especially with software,
True.
is changing, and it's
Yeah.
changing real quick, and everything flows, nothing abides.
Yeah.
Nothing is, yes. So because of that, students must always be updated. So as we lecturers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good. Thank you. Eva, do you
Yeah,
have
you're
anything
welcome.
to add into
So
that?
true. This is very true, Richard. You're so right about it. That what we can, I think, what we can teach our students or show our students is to be curious all the time and keep
Yes.
learning, and make sure they choose some area that they are really interested in or passionate about, interested enough to be able to always, keep up with the latest knowledge and read and learn. And it's a continuous thing. It's not like you get your degree, you learn, and then you practice.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore.
Yes,
Wonderful.
absolutely.
Wonderful.
So we're moving to AI, and thank you everybody for now following us live. Please add your thoughts into the comments, and also please sign up on our website to our newsletter so that you receive the selection of the shows and also what's coming up. This is Teachers Talk Radio, Tuesday Twilight Show, every second Tuesday, 6 p.m. with me, Timea, talking with two brilliant guests who are now Eva and Richard today
Yeah,
on a
thank
hot
you.
topic in education. Today's topic is industry in the classroom, and we come to a point which I think we cannot avoid, which is AI. Let's talk about it, how we make sure it's an industry skill they need to have. The tools, the thinking, practicing it. I can't really imagine in any of the field. And when we talk about now marketing and leadership, they can come to an interview when they get the question about AI, and they are just saying that, you know what, I don't know, we're not allowed to use it or whatever. I
Yeah.
cannot use it. Or yes, I use ChatGPT, so ask some questions, right? It's not really something complicated. And AI, we just talked about, both of you mentioned it, that you as a lecturer have to evolve. And AI was the one that, yes, we have in our subject matter area, we have decades of experience, right? And then suddenly AI, nobody has decades of experience in generative AI, right? So I throw this onto you, whatever thoughts you have, as much tangible as possible. So please, Eva, I hand it to you now first, and then to Richard.
I am very lucky. I am very interested in the AI technology, and also I have several trainings at my workplace. We have 3 AI experts. They keep training us all the time, and also at my PhD, I always attend AI classes, so I'm quite lucky. And I'm also very interested. So I encourage my students to use AI, a variety of AI. For example, one of my students who was working on her thesis the other day, she was doing interviews, and I encouraged her to obviously, with the permission of the interviewees, to record the interviews. And I showed her the tools, how she can record and translate, and what are the tools she can use to synthesize the key learnings. 3-4 different AI tools to connect, create sort of a workflow, and how she can do that. And she was so pleased. Obviously, it doesn't substitute her thinking and drawing the conclusions, but it was wonderful for her to see how she can do research with AI. And that's a wonderful skill to have.
Absolutely. And do you have some actual tools that you introduce? And
Sure.
What are they?
She recorded it with, for example, Teams, because she did that online. And then she used the Turbo Scribe AI, which is a great tool because you can put videos in and it transcribes and translates, and it gives you a much better translation than Teams, because Teams has bugs, so it doesn't really translate well. So Turbo Scribe AI scripted it. And with Notebook LM, she could then do like decision trees and select subject areas quite well, and map, create like a thought map. So it was really a good experience for her to work with those tools.
That's a great example. But in your teaching, do you also include give students some activities when they have
Sure.
to
They actively use Gemini. For example, Gemini is wonderful to create websites.
Okay, so you ask them that this is the exercise now.
Gemini, the paid version is very good with websites, and very easy to do websites. But it's not the website thing. For certain marketing tools like building values ladders, I encourage them to use AI and then hone what the AI was doing, feeding into AI, and also teach them, if they work with graphical elements like photos, videos, how they can prompt. For example, in order to prompt Midjourney well, they have to ask Gemini or ChatGPT to write the prompts. because if you prompt it, it's not as good as if you use an AI to prompt the AI. So these kind of little techniques we
That's
learn
really
at
great,
class.
Eva, and that's great that you are curious yourself and interested, because I see here a gap that those lecturers who were not digitally savvy in the first place, now with AI, it's all about the resistance, and that is even harder to push through. While at the same time, students just cannot have a degree and go to an interview without that, right? I don't know, Richard, what you think and how you use it in your teaching.
Yeah, I think let me just say this, Timia. If you remember, when these tools started coming in and students were relying on them, teachers were the first to say, "Hey, don't use AI.
Yes,
Don't use
yes,
AI.
I know,
You
I
need to
know.
go original," because
Yeah.
we were preaching originality
Mhm,
ahead of these tools that came, but in the name of problem solving
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
and to make things convenient. And that is where the world is going. Timia, we couldn't stop the wind from blowing, so we just have to accept it.
But
We-
did you have you accepted it because you had
yes,
to, or you're also
like,
curious, and how do
yes,
you?
of course, of course. So in accepting it, this is where Eva said that some when students are using it, they need to let us know that they are using these tools and what tools are they using. So
Exactly, that's very important.
normally there's a declaration they need to declare. If it's
Yeah,
got to do with assessment or assignment, they need to declare the tools. But I think one of the tools is it has always been the most used, but it's still always useful. ChatGPT.
Mhm,
Normally, in group work and you want them to be hands-on, you just don't want them to go exactly as ChatGPT is saying, but they can pick up an idea and then make it their own, so that ChatGPT becomes a friend, not
mhm.
yeah,
not the leader in their conversation, but it is
hmm,
part of their innovation,
yeah,
their creativity, their thinking. For example, I ask students, you can use my babe, for example, for referencing.
Mhm,
Mybabe.com
mhm,
gives you helps you to do very good referencing without going through the OSCE. If you want to do Harvard referencing, APA 6th edition, APA 7th edition, you can go in there, because I also am doing my DBA. You chose the PhD, I chose the DBA because I have another skill in corporate training. I like to train corporate leaders. So I chose the DBA. In my DBA,
great.
I use some of these for my work. It makes it very easier, faster. But then
Yeah,
again, I come back to what Eva is saying. We should focus more on these tools, helping them rather than not making them lazy.
mhm.
I think that is where the
yeah,
reason why when we started talking about tools, we didn't want them to over rely on them. But if it makes it makes them become more strengthened, and then it becomes a friend, it becomes useful and relevant than being
absolutely.
something, yes, than being a tool that they're going to rely on and it makes them lazy. So I think that for me, I encourage my students to use it, but I also help them to make sure that they
Yeah.
use it to become more relevant to what they are doing.
Also, one fun fact that one of the universities used to do like online exams, but the exams in June came back so AI written that they went back to classroom and handwritten exams, which is very difficult for teachers to, especially
Mhm,
people just don't handwrite anymore that much,
Yeah.
and they start doing
mhm.
like 5 pages handwritten. It's really difficult to read.
Let me tell you, Eva, with me, when I write, it's just like I'm learning to write again, because I don't remember the last. Yeah,
See?
it's becoming difficult now. It's becoming so difficult because
Yeah,
of where we are. So imagine, even with us, for me, with the age bracket, we had it
Yeah,
very difficult. Then imagine the Gen Z and the Gen Alphas, it becomes even more difficult. So we
yeah,
can only help them to use the tools that would make them more useful, and then to
yeah,
help them to more efficient rather than
yes.
being lazy.
Yes, and also 2 points here. Like one, if we ask them to absolutely do handwritten and exclude AI, then we are not teaching them. They will go to an interview or start in an office and we'll just, oh, I'm sorry, I also have ever used handwritten, things, which is not what
Exactly.
we want them, right?
No,
And
no.
another thought that you mentioned, Richard, is a very good one, is not to be lazy. And I think
Yeah.
laziness
yeah,
hasn't come with AI. It just made it probably easier to be
Easier.
lazy. But we could even before see those who didn't put a lot of effort into it and went for the first available, easiest solution just to kind of tick a box, right? And I
Yes.
think it is the same, how much effort you put into things. And it was very interesting. I think it was the previous show where I had two researchers from LSE coming, and they had a research where students let them see their AI log, chat log for a module. And they could see the various learning styles and how students use AI and put them into 4 different categories. And there was obviously the kind of, they didn't call it lazy, the one who kind of took what AI said, and then other types who just used it, as you said, Richard, and both of you said that as a kind of friend, or they went back to reflect on it. And this was interesting to see how the various ways, but they also said that it's not just that one person is always one category, that it also depends on how fast you want to do it. Probably you are last minute and you have to do it in short notice. Then you become a little bit lazier because you just want to get over it, right? So it's all about it. It's a very, very interesting one. Yeah, thank you very much for that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to touch upon an important topic, which will be inclusivity. But before that, just let me talk about a very important event. So we are Teachers Talk Radio, and if you want to see us live, then please attend Teachers Talk Connect in 2026, another important date in the calendar, which is our annual CPD and networking extravaganza on the Saturday, 14th of March, okay? In Manchester, tickets are free, and you can sign up at this website, which you can see here, ttradio.org/connect 2026, if you want to see us. And back to my two fantastic guests, Eva and Richard, talking about industry in the classroom, and we also touched upon AI, software, case studies, group work, and all these soft skills. I'd like to come to an important thing, that it's all very exciting, except for those who it is not, right? There are some people who find it harder to keep up with all this technology, this case studies, this excitement. There are those who might not understand as quickly. There are those who don't want to speak up in front of others. And it is increasingly true for those who is it's in an English classroom when English is not their first language. So all in all, how do you actually make sure that you also cater for those who are not as quick, not having the first role, and need some more support? What is it? What are some strategies to help them, and also help them to actually have that industry skill? Because when they go to work at an office, then it's important for them to have as well. I don't know, Eva.
It's very individual, but what I usually do and what can be successful, especially with those who are a bit timid, that I offer quite a lot of one-on-one sessions. So if they want to, it's up to them, or small group tutoring, just to catch up or discuss certain things which they haven't quite understood. They want to talk more, which I taught at the class. So just small groups or one-on-one. But if they do not have the attitude, the right attitude, that's difficult. But they have the attitude, but they don't have the self-confidence, then I think it's with me, it's quite easy, because I'm very willing and very happy to spend time with those who are willing to learn.
And do they approach you? So does it happen that they ask for those?
I encourage them to do so, and they do, actually.
It really shows that they need it.
Yes.
Yeah, in some universities where there's capacity, there's actually one-to-one tutoring where they can work with the tutor, but it's not the luxury of every university, obviously. And
that's true.
Sometimes you have 35 people in a cohort. Like Richard, yes, what do you do?
Yeah, Timea, honestly, when it comes to the conversation around inclusivity, I have a certain approach, just to make sure everybody participates. I go with a very simple analogy that when you stand in front of an elephant, you will not see the whole part. You need to go back a little bit. Then you can appreciate all the parts of the elephant. So before I start especially my first meeting with my class, you will talk. You will introduce yourself. I use that to just check their personality types. I may be wrong, but I think most of the times I may be 75 to 80% correct. Those who are very introvertible, they find it very difficult to talk easily. And when you are giving them the task, it's not even about the language barrier. It's also not about communication. They find it, they are just introverts. And so I check. Normally, if it's not a very big class, I do 100% well. But if it's a big class, normally you lose it a bit. But I try to get everyone to talk, introduce yourself, the motivation for doing this course or doing this program. What is your expectation of me by the end of the 10 weeks or 15 weeks? What do you want to see me doing? What exactly had been your experience? By the time you finish the first class, I break the ice. In breaking the ice, I get to know each and everyone how to communicate. Then this is where Eva's, thing come in. When I come to find out that there are regular people who always raise their hands when the question is asked, and I see those who are not, normally I blend them in teams. And when I put them in teams and there's a time for presentation, I am intentional and very deliberate about it to say that, you know what, this team in the next hour, you are the one who's going to present for the team. You're going to talk on behalf of the team. By doing that, I have prepared the person rather than picking the person on the spot. When you pick them on the spot, they may not like you. They will feel so frustrated. They feel embarrassed them. But when you tell them that in an hour, you are going to present for the team, or by next week, come prepared, you are going to talk for the team. And you know what? It's a team. When you fail, everybody fails. So basically, we are going to help you to win. In my class, nobody will win. Nobody will lose. All of us will win. So when you start having such conversation, you see that they feel that in their inner part, this teacher wants to help me. He's not trying to put me down. When all of these things fail, that is when the one-to-one support and the sessions now come in. And sometimes they are also open and excited to tell you the reason why maybe they don't like to talk and they may not. But if it's a language barrier, then it's a different conversation altogether. This is where you start telling them you have to try reading more books, listen to more audios about learning the language and all of it. Then I use that to bridge it. So this is how I use it in my short approach in dealing with
absolutely.
inclusion.
This is wonderful. And then can you get everybody to finally talk and open up?
Yes, and by the time I'm done with you for the whole week, I can tell you everybody is talking, and I also like to find out what excites them that much. There are some students, the very moment, some are visual, some are visual learners, some are auditory, some like to read, and some are kinesthetics. So when they are kinesthetics, always like to put them in teams. Even when there's an answer for one person, make sure that this question goes for two people so that they are always getting support. There are people like that. Without support, they can't move. So I try to apply all of these pedagogical approaches in the classroom, and then it turns out well. And by the time they finish, they see that whatever skill they've learned would also be useful in their own real life progression and also in the workplace. And when they see that anything that they're learning is helping them individually, not only in the classroom, then they know that, this is something I need to learn, because there are a lot of things to learn outside the workplace. And that's what I do.
You're so right, Richard. And I can attest to that. I've seen your classes and you really make everybody engage in a very nice way. And I really loved it that this is predictable for them. It's not being put on the spot. And eventually when we let someone never speak or kind of avoid it, at some point when they are at an interview, unfortunately, you can only do the interview in speaking up, right? So at an interview, you have to be used to speaking up, kind of talking about yourself. And if that is the first time they have to do it, because up until then they could somehow avoid it, then it will not help them at all. So this is something that I try to make sure that they understand.
Eva,
of course.
One more point, just a dotted line to that, interviews. The other sort of transferable skill I like to cover with my students is how to structure what they want to say.
That's so important.
I have students from many different cultures, and there are certain cultures where you have to talk a lot, and then at the end, after the fifth sentence, you say the essence.
Yes.
But in business, it doesn't work like that. It works more like the executive summaries type. Like, I want to talk about 3 points, and then 1, 2, 3, and then you talk about them, and you basically lead somebody, taking their hand and lead them through your thought process.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. But
And
you should
sometimes
teach
very smart
everybody. You
students.
should teach so many people this, really.
Yeah.
And it's an
Yeah.
issue when people don't come to the point.
And that
Yeah.
goes to that kind of mushy thinking goes over to the presentations as well, the written presentations or the slides, and also the oral one. And when you have an interview, Timea, as you mentioned, you have one chance to prove yourself, and then you have to convey your thoughts in a way which is very clear and very structured and very much to the point. And that's
Yeah.
also a great transferable skill.
Yeah,
It
thank
is.
you for bringing this in.
And
Maybe-
Timea, there is one thing that also worked for me very well at some point when I was teaching students from different cultures. When I found out that there was a group of students who don't like to talk, even when you ask them questions, it becomes very difficult for them to answer. Normally, I try to connect with them emotionally. What do? I tell them, oh, some 21 years ago when I came to UK as a student, and I was a master's degree student learning MA communications in Leeds University. I used to struggle with XYZ, but eventually, so when I start telling them about the positives, about how I broke through it, then they also get excited. Sometimes when you use yourself as an experience
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
telling them how
We can
you
resonate
overcame,
with that.
yes, and
That's
then they
very nice.
resonate, especially when I'm also originally a Ghanaian, originally from Ghana, coming to UK some years ago. I did so I tell them, I know your hustle, I know your pain, I know what you're going through, I've been through it, but look at me, you can do it. And so I share my personal experience with them, and then some of them easily come to the table.
Yeah,
I do
thank you
that.
very much. That's a very good point, and also how you build those relationships, really.
Exactly.
So fantastic. Thank you
Exactly.
very much. Coming to the last question, and this was such an exciting, and we could go on forever. But being both as an academic and an industry professional, both of you, and Richard mentioned it at the beginning, just want to finish with it. We talked a lot about what academia can learn from business, what kind of industry practice can be brought into the classroom. But just one question, what can business learn from academia? If you can just finish with these thoughts. I don't know. Richard, go ahead with this because you brought this up, and then I will go to it.
Yeah. I personally think that, the foundation of every successful business starts on paper. You draw the strategy on paper. You apply the theories, the frameworks on paper. So I personally believe that business should understand the application of the frameworks. Of course, when you take it from the academia into the workplace, the dynamics may change, but the fundamentals do not really change that much. So business should be able to understand the environment and how it affects the internal environment. And basically, what I personally believe is that the frameworks that had been researched on does not mean that it is end in itself. Business can fine-tune it as they practice it. So when business practices it, and eventually there are some kind of, if you like, changes or gaps, business can now relearn from what academia has done, because academia brought a framework, business has applied it, but there has been some changes. That change should be a new learning. And that is what I think business is not doing well. Business should help academia to always improve. So when you apply the framework, you take it to the workplace, it changes because the external environment has influenced it, and there is a gap. That becomes a new learning. Business should also try documenting the effects, the challenges, the impacts of whatever the application is, so that they can bring it to academia, and the academia can also rework on it. By doing so, you realize that we can always link theory to practice.
Yeah, so it's a whole cycle.
It's a cycle.
That you said that I have exactly the same thought, actually.
Thank
that
you.
in many
Very true.
businesses, they just kind of talk about these ad hoc techniques, which means what I learned about marketing back 6 years ago, the frameworks, the foundation is still applies, even if none of the technologies, obviously, everything has changed. But I can see many times in business, it's not really in the foundation, and also what you mentioned, the research, the evidence-based. In business,
Exactly.
people if you look at on LinkedIn, there are these posts like, just saying something, but how is it evidence? Like, right?
Exactly.
I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah, Eva,
exactly.
sorry, I just also jumped in.
Yeah. And also evidence, also research. Like I have a very lovely professor at the PhD course who said that without data, you are just another person with an opinion.
Yeah,
Exactly. I love
That's
this.
also
Oh, I
true.
love this. All
exactly,
those CEOs should.
Without
I should
exactly,
have
evidence,
told
also
it
there are
to
exactly.
MDs
great.
and CEOs. Yeah, I
Yes.
love this.
And also, it's very important to, and also frameworks are very important. I remember my boss at Young and Rubicam back in London. It was when it was this big recession in 2010, and he was reading. He was a super intelligent guy, and he was reading Keynes. And I said, "Why are you reading Keynes?" He wrote it in the I don't know, 1930 something. And he said, it's so educational learning about the recession because this is what's happening again. And I want to go back to his thoughts and works and see I can apply it here and here and here in my job. And that was just wonderful.
Oh, fantastic. It was
Wow.
great to finish up with this. So thank you so much to Eva Halasz and Richard Ahenkorah,
Thank you.
both amazing
That's my
professionals
pleasure.
and
Thank you
also
for having me.
academia. Thank you. We've
Thank
learned
you.
a lot. And
Thank
thank you
you.
for your enthusiasm. Thank you for
Yeah.
bringing into academia your knowledge and industry knowledge as well. So I wish you a nice rest of the day. Thank you
Same.
to all the listeners. Goodbye. So I will just kind of,
Goodbye. Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Goodbye. Thank you to all our listeners who were with us today. And I will finally also would like to thank Hashi Learning, who are our partners and who we do this show in partnership with, publishers of professional development books and resources that support great teaching and learning in schools around the world. If you want to level up your professional development today, then visit hashilearning.com to explore the full titles. So thank you everybody for listening. This was the Tuesday Twilight Show today. I very much welcome messages, what you'd like to hear here, the guest you'd like to have here, or if you'd like to actually apply to be a guest, I would like to hear from you. And otherwise, please have a very nice rest of the time. Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to Teachers Talk Radio. Tune in live and listen back at ttradio.org. We look forward to hearing from you next time on Teachers Talk Radio.